President Bush has talked about our staying in Iraq for 50 years.
Maybe 100.
Is that
We've been in South Korea. We've been in Japan for 60 years. We've been in South Korea for 50 years or so. It's fine with me. I hope it'll be fine with you.
His whole career is wrapped up in the military, national security. He's in Putin's face. He's threatening the Iranians. We're going to be in Iraq 100 years. If we're in Iraq 100 years, Joe, we will be fighting 100 years of war, just as the British, if they stayed in our country 100 years, would be fighting the Americans for a century. I'm telling you, what John McCain is telling you is what he's promising you. What he said is, make no mistake, there are going to be more wars. That is straight talk. To be quite frank, Joe, you get John McCain in the White House, and I do believe we will be at war with Iran. That's one of the things that makes me very nervous about him. If you take a look at the McCain foreign policy, he is in everybody's face. Did you see Thad Cochran's comment when he endorsed Romney? He said, look, John McCain is a bellicose, red-faced, angry guy who constantly explodes. His whole career is the military. His big issue, the one he's comfortable with, is what? Is national security, Islamofascism, the long war, 100 years in Iraq. That's where he's comfortable. That's where he's at his best.
Here's what you told Bill Bennett on his radio show on Monday. There are neighborhoods in Baghdad where you could walk through those neighborhoods today. The U.S. is beginning to succeed in Iraq. Everything we hear that if you leave the so-called green zone, the international zone, and you go outside of that secure area, relatively speaking, you're in trouble if you're an American.
That's where you ought to catch up on things, Wolf. General Petraeus goes out there almost every day in an unarmed Humvee. I think you ought to catch up.
You mentioned in an interview that General Petraeus sometimes goes into Baghdad in an unarmored Humvee, and that there were neighborhoods that you could walk through without being concerned for your safety.
There is no unarmored Humvees. Obviously, that's the case. I'm trying to make the point over and over and over again that we are making progress.
Let's go live to Baghdad right now. CNN's Michael Ware is standing by. Michael, you've been there, for 4 years? You're walking around Baghdad on a daily basis. Has there been this improvement that Senator McCain is speaking about?
Well, I'd certainly like to bring Senator McCain up to speed if he ever gives me the opportunity. Senator McCain's credibility now on Iraq, which has been so solid to this point, is now being left out hanging to dry. To suggest that there's any neighbourhood in this city where an American can walk freely is beyond ludicrous. I'd love Senator McCain to tell me where that neighbourhood is, and he and I can go for a stroll. And to think that General David Petraeus travels this city in an unarmed Humvee. In the hour since Senator McCain has said this, I've spoken to some military sources, and there was laughter down the line.
The delegation played the role of tourists while surrounded by enormous firepower. The guns, though, couldn't protect McCain from his own words. The week before, trying to build support for the surge, he said this on television.
Wolf, General Petraeus goes out there almost every day in an unarmed Humvee.
And he said this on the radio.
There are neighborhoods in Baghdad where you and I could walk through those neighborhoods today.
Those words came back to haunt him in a Baghdad news conference, and he made it worse.
Senator McCain, I just read in the internet that you said there are areas in Baghdad that you can walk around freely.
I just came from one.
Pardon me?
I just came from one.
But backing up that stroll through the market was 10 armored Humvees, soldiers with rifles, and 2 Apache attack helicopters circling overhead. At what point do you stop doing what you think is right and you start doing what the majority of the American people want?
Well, again, I disagree with what the majority of the American people want.
There was a political issue, a local issue, about whether the Confederate flag should fly over the Capitol.
Mm-hmm.
You waffled on that.
Yes. Worse than waffle.
What do you mean?
Well, I said that it was strictly a state issue, and clearly knowing that it wasn't.
That's not what you believed in your heart.
No.
What did you believe in your heart?
That it was a symbol to many of a very offensive symbol to many, many Americans.
Why did you say that?
I'm sure for all the wrong reasons.
And those wrong reasons would be?
For ambition.
For ambition.
Sure.